Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's my pleasure to second the motion moved by my colleague, the member for Chifley. I would also like to acknowledge the presence today of the Philippines Ambassador to Australia and the Consul General to the Philippines in Canberra. As noted in his remarks, the motion celebrates the strength of bilateral diplomatic relations between Australia and the Philippines over the last 70 years. It seeks to acknowledge the importance of effective diplomatic relations for both countries, which is underscored by the fact that we've signed more than 120 agreements aimed at promoting political, security, economic and cultural linkages and cooperation. Although this motion focuses on the development of our diplomatic relationship in the Philippines since 1946, it's worthy noting that the relationship between our two nations began long before the establishment of diplomatic ties. In 1901, an early Australian census identified 700 Filipinos who were working on trading ships and in the pearling industry across Australia. However, the bond between our two nations was truly forged during World War II, when more than 4,000 Australian troops fought side by side with Filipino and Allied forces on Filipino soil. It was not long after this time that Australia and the Philippines formally established diplomatic relations, ensuring our two countries would always have a close relationship based not just on our geographical proximity, but also our shared history. Migration between our two countries increased significantly from 1980, and as many of you know, and the member for Chifley told us, Western Sydney is now home to 28% of Australia's Filipino and Tagalong speakers, while people of Filipino descent are one of my electorate's largest and fastest growing population group. At the last census, 3,500 people in Werriwa identified as coming from the Philippines, and this number, of course, doesn't include thousands of children born in Australia to Australian Filipino parents. The Filipino community in Australia continues to grow at a staggering pace, with over 250,000 Filipinos now calling Australia home, making it the sixth largest migrant community in Australia. However, Australia's deep relationship with the Philippines has not only delivered important cultural and people-to-people links, but encompasses significant trade and economic ties. The trade relationship between our nations has been developed through decades of mutual cooperation and exchange, and it has supported and underpinned the establishment of the diplomatic ties 70 years ago. In addition to trade ties, Australia's diplomatic relations with the Philippines has facilitated one of Australia's largest growing development assistance programs. In 2013, Australia was the largest provider of development assistance, providing funds for programs that assist in educational outcomes, strengthening the public service and delivering infrastructure. On top of the development assistance, Australia has also contributed to recovery efforts with natural disasters in the Philippines, including medical mission teams who worked alongside other Filipino and international humanitarian organisations in the aftermath of Typhoon Yolanda in 2013. The relationship between our countries has never just been a one-way street, with the Filipino community in Australia making long-lasting and significant contributions to civil society through the employment, the arts, sport and various community groups. A wonderful example of this contribution in my own electorate is Councillor Ray Minato, who was recently elected to Campbelltown City Council. Councillor Minato has continued to display his unwavering commitment to those in his community who are less fortunate and to represent the Filipino community in Western Sydney with great distinction. Without the contributions of individuals like Councillor Minato, as well as the entire Filipino community, Werriwa, Western Sydney and Chifley would certainly be a far lesser place, and we recognise and thank them very much. This was highlighted for me only a couple of weeks ago when I attended the 22nd Flores de Mayo Santa Cruzan celebration at All Saints Liverpool, which was hosted by the Philos Liverpool Districts Incorporated. Also in attendance there was the Consul General of Consulate from Sydney, who is about to leave us. The event was a wonderful celebration of Filipino culture and promoted even further goodwill towards the Filipino and Australian community in my electorate. I'd like to take this final opportunity to once again call on the House to join me in celebrating the strength of bilateral diplomatic relations between Australia and the Philippines over the last 70 years. I commend the motion to the House.